So it's time for another episode of Be You Tiful, and today I have a friend with me, basically because a charity called Student Minds and another charity called Mind are both running separate campaigns designed to get people talking with their friends, to check they're alright, teaching people how to deal with friends who are having a hard time, whether that's anything from a little bit stressed about work to mental illnesses. So I have my friend Zaynah with me today.
Hi, I'm Zaynah.
Yeah, and basically we've both suffered from mental health problems and have also had friends and close loved ones that have suffered from similar things. So it's something that we're both very familiar with. Yeah. So how do you feel about your friends and loved ones when you're feeling particularly down? Because I always find that any sort of feeling of anxiety or sadness that I get comes with a paranoia. Yeah. Where I'll feel like no one really likes me or wants to spend
time with me. I get that a lot. I have really kind of low self-confidence when it comes to people liking me. It's one of the things I strive most for is to make everyone like me, or just to feel loved all the time.
Yeah.
And if I am feeling low or down or depressed, then my first automatic response to that is everyone hates me. I don't feel like I should be here. I don't have a purpose. I feel kind of lost, that kind of thing. That's my automatic response. As soon as I feel a bit down, I'm like, no one will care. That kind of thing.
So how do you usually deal with that? Do you have a strategy, or do you sort of
usually speak to my family? So it's usually my sisters, my little sister and my big sister, probably my rocks, and I will speak to them first, and I'll be like this is how I'm feeling, or they'll come to me and be like, you've been acting really weird lately, what's wrong? And it makes me feel. They don't have to say, oh, Zaynah, we love you, or whatever, but I know from the way they're talking to me and the way they care about how I feel, shows that they actually do care, and it makes me feel a bit better.
Yeah. I think the problem is that you need to know that there are people who do love you.
Yeah.
So even if you can't tell yourself that, it's a good idea to tell yourself you are just being paranoid. One thing that's really important to know in terms of friends who are worried about how to interact with people who are displaying these feelings of paranoia is that a short-term alleviation of the worries will just exacerbate the long-term problem. So a lot of the times people will come to you and say things like, I know you hate me. And while you may feel like the best thing to do and the only real response is to encourage them, let them know that you do love them, it's really great to not get into that cycle of constant reassurance, because that can be really addictive.
No, I completely agree.
Yeah.
I completely agree. I do feel that it should be something that comes within rather than always seeking reassurance from others.
Yeah.
It's much better that way.
So I would say talk to people about it while you're not feeling it with the paranoia thing. So when you're having a good day or a good week or a good month or whatever, then let your friends know that this is something that does tend to come out when you're feeling particularly down.
Yeah.
Make sure that they know not to indulge in it. Also, it helps you to establish with some rational part of your brain that it is an irrational feeling when you're in that place. So I can think, no, I know my sister loves me. I know my friends like spending time with me because we've talked about this. And it just gives you, I think, a foundation so that even when you're feeling bad, you can fall back on that.
I completely agree, because I used to do this. I used to seek assurance a lot more, probably a year ago, where I'd be to my friends and stuff, do you like me, or do people talk about me behind my back? I used to do that a lot at school. I used to be so do people say things behind my back, and what do people say when I leave the room, and does this person like me? But you know what, when you think back to moments you've had with your friends and family, and you appreciate that they do like you, they do love you, and they would be lost without you, those are the things you need to do. You need to assure yourself with those things rather than always asking people to do it for you.
However, if you are stuck in a really dark place with that, and you're feeling really, really paranoid and no one likes you, you're not a good person, because those two things do often go hand in hand, I think a short-term way out of that can be to rack your brains and think of all the nice things that people have said to you. So any compliment at all. So if you're more worried about your physical appearance, think of times people said nice things about the way you looked. If you're worried about being a horrible person, think of all the times people have said to you, oh, that was really sweet, and things like that. And just remember that you've got to put it in perspective.
I totally agree. And even if it's going through old Facebook photos and looking at comments, or going and through your texts and things and looking at people's comments and nice things they've said to you. So yeah. So the next question is, what advice would you give to someone who's worried about how to deal with a friend who's having a hard time or feeling particularly down? So how would you do this, Ellie?
I think the most important thing, which you should always remember, is don't be afraid to talk about it. There is this massive stigma around mental illness, but it's completely unjustified, especially if a friend has come to you and told you that they're struggling. You've got to face that problem. They're clearly coming to you for help, and you shouldn't feel awkward about talking about it. It's not a taboo subject at all. Just be open, be encouraging, and let them know that you're there for them.
I completely agree with everything Ellie just said, and I think that when mental health becomes a taboo subject, when I was first diagnosed with depression, I was really ashamed of it, and I didn't want to take antidepressants, and I didn't want the stigma related to depression because I didn't want everyone thinking, oh, she's depressed, and the negative connotations that come with depression. And I think that that's really sad when someone is ashamed of themselves and how they're feeling. And I think when mental health becomes a less taboo subject, as we're trying to do and many other people are trying to do, and the way that hopefully it's heading, becoming more open about it, I think it's just more positive.
Yeah, I think it can really contribute to the isolation that comes with these sort of issues. If you feel trapped, like you can't tell anyone about it. So just always be checking up on friends, just little things like texts every now and again, definitely. And ask them how they are, and things like that will really make a massive difference.
I completely agree, because I know that if no one texts me and I don't text anyone else, I can become quite isolated. I can feel quite isolated, and I won't branch out.
Yeah, I think it becomes like a vicious cycle.
Yeah, definitely.
So you don't text people because you've started to get these feelings.
Then you get that paranoia again, and it literally is a vicious cycle.
Yeah. Bearing that in mind, it is also crucial that you don't push people, because it is a difficult personal thing to talk about, and often people won't want to do certain things. There's really not a way that you can force them to do anything they don't want to do, and often doing so will be counterproductive. So a friend who's really clearly upset and comes to you does not want to be told you have to go see a counsellor. Sometimes they just want someone to listen. You don't have to provide all the answers.
I completely agree with that. I couldn't stand it when I would go to my mum. My mum in particular, I'd always go to her and be like, I'm really down, depressed. She'd be like, we have to get you help. We have to make you see someone.
Yeah.
And I knew that for me, that particular method wasn't the answer, and it would really anger me and upset me when I was told what to do and told how to deal with the way I was feeling.
Yeah, I had the exact same thing.
Yeah, and it is not helpful, and it makes you not want to go to that person again.
Yeah.
So it isolates you, and I think that sometimes it's just helpful to be an ear, someone to listen to, and give advice, but don't make it pushy and authoritative. You can just give advice as a friend.
So, as I said at the beginning of the video, we've both had friends and close ones who have suffered from mental illnesses or have been in particularly bad places mentally. So what are the little things that you like to do which you have heard help that?
So, for example, there was one member of my family that went through a bit of an eating disorder, and so I spent as much time with that person. We went out for dinner and cinema and just spent lots of quality time talking, and it wasn't even about the problem that we would talk about. We would talk about everything else and everything surrounding the issue, but for some reason that helped because that person has managed to solve their own issues and get back on track, which is something I'm very happy about, and it's meant a lot to me in the past few weeks. Yeah. That's
really great. I agree. I think the most important thing to do is to schedule time to talk. That's what this whole campaign is about with Mind. It's using the hashtag #TimeToChange to just encourage people to check up on their friends, to arrange times where you can have a one-on-one discussion about any things that have bothered you at all, and I think that is really important. And another thing that I found really helpful is little romantic gestures, so little things that will mean a lot to them, whether that's anonymously sending them chocolate if they're stressed before exams, or writing postcards or letters, both of which have got this real emotional attachment to them now, they're less commonly used.
Also, scheduling time to call your friends, even if you're like in separate parts of the world, like me and Ellie.
Separate parts of the world.
Well, we're like,
Brighton and
yeah,
Oxford.
I know, they're far. But if you just schedule a bit of time, like we call each other if we're feeling down, and that's nice as well. So it doesn't always have to be like a meeting if it's not possible.
Another thing that I found sometimes helps, although it's definitely something that you have to play by ear, is talking to them about your problems. So I've heard a lot of people say that often this really helps them, because if you want to encourage someone to know that you're there for them, if you let them know your own problems, then it becomes less one-sided. It feels less like counselling.
Burdening, like you're burdening someone. Because I often feel like I'm burdening people if I tell them loads of stuff.
Even if they're just minor things, it sort of opens up that dialogue. Thank you so much for coming, Zaynah.
You're welcome.
It's been such a pleasure. It's really lovely having a friend up to see me. Is there anything else that you particularly want to tell people who are dealing with this sort of problem?
I think like a bit of cheesy advice probably would be like stay strong. No matter what you think, there is someone out there, and I promise you there's someone out there. No matter how isolated you feel, there's someone who cares about you, someone who wants you, and someone who needs you. So don't feel that you are a waste of space and that you don't feel wanted and needed, because there is someone there, I promise.
Oh.
I'm going to cry, I'm actually going to cry.
So sweet. I actually realised that I forgot to set challenges in the last couple of videos, which is something that I really did want to keep up. So obviously the challenge for this video is to talk to your friends. So if you'd like to record that like we've done and a couple of other people have done, then that would be great. If not, just have, you know, a one-on-one conversation with someone who you think needs a bit of extra support, and just talk about how you're both feeling at the moment. I'll post loads of links in the description bar below, so links to the 2 campaigns that I talked about, the Look After Your Mate campaign, which is association with Student Minds, who are running workshops across the country, and the Time to Change campaign, which is in association with Rethink Mental Illness and Mind. Also lots of links to helplines, so if you can't think of someone who you'd like to talk to that you know, there's lots of things like Nightline and the Samaritans who are always there to listen to you. I'll also post links down below to the rest of the series, so please do check it out if you haven't already. I'd really appreciate it. And also my Twitter and Tumblr, so you can follow me there. Thank you so much for watching, and I will be posting a lot more videos very soon. Bye!
Bye!